This is a production of ITM Media.
Episode 171. Ladies and gentlemen, do not adjust your screens if you're watching on YouTube, of course, and if you're listening on your regular podcast platform. If you picked up on it, yes, it is our old intro in honor of Throwback Weekend. From now on until the rest of this episode, we will now be referred to, well, I guess we can refer to ourselves as In the Marbles Weekly Racing Podcast. That's right. Thank you for tuning in to another edition of, well, this is actually Ramblin' About Racing with the OG crew. Myself, Preston Lood, and sitting across from me, drinking the fine Pilsner beer, the one, the only, Matt Beamer. What's up, Matt?
How's it going, Preston? It is great to be here. Throwback Weekend. It is the most exciting time of the year. I love this time of the year only because it is Darlington. Unfortunately, you and I will not be heading to the great Lady in Black this weekend for the Cup Series race or for the weekend in general here.
Yeah.
We have other stuff going on, and it's a catch-22. It's Mother's Day.
Yes.
And it's
yes,
tough. It's tough to justify, hey, babe, happy Mother's Day. I got you Darlington tickets. That's not a good sell.
No, it's not.
For mothers everywhere.
I've already tried that.
Some mothers enjoy it.
Some do.
My daughter's mother, my wife, does not enjoy it. But yes, back here, henceforth, this episode only, in the Marbles Weekly Racing Podcast. So like Preston said at the top of the show, don't adjust those dials.
Don't adjust those dials. That's right.
It is going to be a fun episode, reliving everything here. And I got to say this before we get started. It has been a fun ride so far. But out of 171 episodes, Preston, what's your favorite moment?
Oh, man, there's so many. I like to think, the one of the things that we did that stuck in my mind was from one of our earlier episodes. I'll never forget it when you brought Caroline onto the show and you quizzed her about NASCAR.
Yeah.
And it probably was one of the funniest times I think we may have had on there. We've had plenty of other funny times,
right.
But I mean, to tell you what, that was good content.
Yeah, it was.
It was hilarious.
And it's funny, too, because she just randomly said, hey, you should bring me on the show and pop quiz me.
Oh, I bet you love that.
And
you're like, say no more.
Well, I wrote all those questions pretty easily off the top of my head because it's NASCAR 101.
Yeah.
And she was, poor her. Every answer, Jeff Gordon. No.
No, it's
Go
not.
back and listen to NASCAR Trivia with Caroline to listen to that. I believe that was like 2030.
It was very, very early.
It was very early in our season, very early in our development.
I think one of the other favorite things about if you're tuning in on YouTube and you saw the intro, when we made that intro video.
Yes.
It's like, looking back at it now, it may seem corny, but I don't know. It's so funny still.
At the time, it was the coolest thing we've ever done. Just that little boom right there. It was the coolest thing we've done up to that point, man. It was so much fun to do, and we're only getting better, folks. Trust me. We're only getting better.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think my favorite moment was after the Daytona Escapade episode when you went on that rant.
Ooh, what?
It was about the Ryan Newman and Denny Hamlin spinning out and doing
donuts.
donuts.
Oh, yeah, I think I do kind of fondly remember that one now. Yeah. Oh, that's right, because there was a lot of people that were complaining on social media about Denny Hamlin celebrating while Ryan Newman had crashed.
Right. And
I remember it now.
That was a funny one, man.
Yeah, that was good. I've had plenty of rants.
And I guess maybe, you have. And I guess an honorable mention was Talladega Nights episode. It was such a unique episode because Charlie Austin and I did it every day. So every day we had stories. And I'm hoping for the Southern 500 we could go up to Darlington, spend the weekend there, and have a Darlington Nights episode.
I'm planning on
I would
Darlington
like to.
this year.
I'll bring the camper.
Yeah. I put it out there. I hate that I don't get to go this weekend, and things There are things that have to be done.
Mother's
That's
Day.
okay, but you know what? I will have a date with the lady in black later this year.
I would hope so that I can have a date with the lady in black as well this year. It's 2 hours up the road. There's no excuse.
No, there's absolutely no excuse.
All right. Well, what else is going on, man? You got anything else going on in your...
Man, things are good. Family's good. Kids are good. A pain sometimes, but hey, that's kids for you.
I guess I'm still in the newness phase of having a child because nothing... I mean, she can annoy me, but it isn't like, oh, my gosh.
Wait till she, start talking.
Well,
Is she talking now?
She's just going, dad, 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 dad.
Okay,
dad,
wait till they start to actually form words and sentences, and then they just ask you every 2 seconds what you're doing, and you're just like, are you writing a book?
Well, I can't wait to do that because then I'll be in the garage and I'm like, well, honey, I'm bleeding the brakes, or I'm changing the brake pads, or I'm doing the spark plugs, or I'm plugging in the computer to mommy's car because something happened. I don't know. We'll figure it out. And then I can teach her. It's a teaching opportunity, Preston.
No, of course. Until after a while, it does get annoying.
I will cross that bridge when I
get
there.
to it.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm glad you're doing well. Hope everyone else is doing well out there, whether you're on YouTube or your regular podcast platform for this throwback weekend here at In the Marbles Weekly Racing Podcast. We might as well just hit into it and start Hey Man.
Yeah.
We got a lot to talk about here.
We do.
And let's go ahead and get into Hey Man. Folks, before we continue on with the start of Season 5 of Ramblin About Racing, I wanted to remind everyone out there about our online stores at Teespring and Bonfire, where you can find the latest and greatest Ramblin About Racing gear, such as t-shirts like the one I have on, hoodies, hats, or anyone but lineup exclusively at Bonfire, and so much more. Pint glasses for your beers and everything like that. Just head over to ramblinaboutracin.com under the stores tab, and there you can find the links to both Teespring and Bonfire. Every purchase will help out Ramblin About Racing, bring you better content and hopefully more content at tracks around the country later on as we get there. So head on over to ramblinaboutracin.com. Links can also be found in the YouTube video below or on your podcast description on your regular podcast platform below. Again, all proceeds help out Ramblin About Racing, bring you better content in the future.
Hey, man. Hey, man.
And Hey Man here at In the Marbles Weekly Racing Podcast, presented by Devos Outdoor Lighting. Head over to devosoutdoor.com and use code Ramblin. Kind of a catch-22 here on Throwback Weekend. Use discount code Ramblin for 10% off of your order. Those could be found at ramblinaboutracing.com, or the podcast or YouTube description. Links will be there as well. Now, Preston, I think the story of the weekend here, it wasn't Denny Hamlin winning. It wasn't anything else from this past weekend. But what it was, to me, was this. The punch. And I love Ross Chastain even more now because I can't stand Noah Gragson.
Really?
Yeah, I can't stand the guy. I don't know what it is about Noah Gragson.
I love him.
I wish I was Chastain and I was able to punch him in the face.
Oh.
I don't know what it is about Gragson. It might be that stupid haircut.
Hey, man, don't be hating on the bowl cut.
I'm going to hate on the bowl cut because that is just straight
I love
up
it.
stupid.
It gives him personality.
Yeah, you know what it also did? It got him punched in the face.
Okay, now to be fair, yes, it did get him punched in the face, but he probably should have seen it coming. I mean, when you're going to grab somebody like that, you probably should be ready for the punch.
Here's the thing. Leading up to there, Gragson was 5 laps down at the end of the race. He got ran up and into the wall by Ross Chastain. Ross Chastain didn't touch him. He barely came up the track. I feel like Ross Chastain did nothing wrong. He was on the lead lap racing. Gragson, if anything, should have yielded to him. 5 laps down.
I mean, Gragson was just trying to pass him.
So what? He's 5 laps down. What's he going to do at the end of the race? Get 4 laps back and contend for a top 10? No, he's not. He's 5 laps down. Yield. You're not even in contention here. Then had the audacity to come up to Ross Chastain, Gragson did, after the race, trying to put his name up there like, no one will stand up to Ross Chastain. So I, Noah Gragson, in my bowl cut, will stand up to Ross Chastain. Grabs Chastain, and then Chastain, I would say, kept his composure for about 10 seconds, 5 seconds even. Don't touch me. Let go of me. Stop it. Wait, he said stop it, I believe. Stop it. Stop it. Boom. And that's the result. I don't feel bad for Gragson. I don't feel... I support Chastain in this. I don't care if you love Chastain or hate him. You can't say that he's in the wrong here. I personally think it's good for the sport.
Oh, yeah.
I think Chastain is the diamond in the rough that NASCAR needed. And Gragson got a slice of humble pie right there.
I wish Gragson would. I wish they wouldn't have broken up the fight.
Well, and there's another thing, too. There's a guy in a yellow sweater. Gragson went back to punch, and he
caught him.
He blocked him. I was like, oh, man, that's messed up.
Yeah.
But then other people were like, well, then you're going to turn it into hockey. But at the same time, let the man defend himself. I don't think he would have whooped Chastain. But at the same time, we'll never know.
Yeah, we will never know. Yeah, Gragson did grab him, but it's not like Gragson was going to punch him right away or anything like that. He just grabbed him. And Chastain probably just lost it because Noah Gragson said, hey, man, what the F is your problem? And he asked him again, what the F is your problem? Which, okay, I'll start it like this. I will applaud Noah Gragson for this one. Even though he didn't get a shot in, I will applaud him 100%.
Applaud him for what?
For standing up to Ross Chastain.
Ross Chastain did nothing wrong.
For doing what nobody else has done in the past month, 2 months, whatever. Everybody's so just on camera says, oh, man, like Brendan Poole said, the guy just needs his butt whooped. Okay. Did Brendan Poole go up to him? No. Everybody else has said something about Ross Chastain, but I don't see anybody around confronting the guy. Noah Gragson said, you know what? I'm just going to do it. Chase Elliott said, hey, man, good for you. Because you know what? Chase Elliott's not going to do anything because Chase Elliott's got too much riding for him.
He's a pretty boy anyway. Chase Elliott wouldn't do a darn thing.
Chase Elliott's not going to.
He's a prick.
Chase Elliott, just like plenty of other drivers in my eyes, are not going to do a whole lot except for just say something and that's it. Because we're in the point these days, and I've said it before, drivers probably think there's so much riding on them with sponsorships that they're too afraid to do anything. It's not like it was back in the 2000s or the 2010s where it was the boys have at it and everyone's going to go up to each other and say things, like guys running each other over on track on cool down laps like when Brad Keselowski did at Charlotte. I think it was Bank of America 500. Tried to hit Hamlin and then he ran into Kenseth and then Kenseth chased him down and put him in a headlock.
Yep.
In the garage area, even though Keselowski
that.
Was doing burnouts through the garage area, he legit did a burnout through the garage. That got caught on camera at Charlotte. I don't think that ever got picked up on NASCAR TV, or anything like that. Back then, it was boys have at it. Gragson finally decided to go up to him and said, hey, man, what's your effing problem? I can see why he wanted to do that. Ross did run him out of the groove a little bit. Now Ross wants to say, oh, yeah, I gave him a lane. But Ross does that thing. He does that thing every time where he says, oh, man, yeah, I left him some room, but, that's just the way it is. I'd like I said, and I've said it on the social media already, if Ross would just own up to it, this would all not be like the way it is now. If Ross would just come out and say, you know what? I did that. I ran him like that. Yeah, I ran him over. He's driving too slow. Not like in the Brendan Poole situation that we talked about at Dover, where he said, yeah, I got to go apologize to those guys, man. I really owe them an apology. What? No, man. Just own up to it. Yeah, people don't like him right now. That's the way it is. But aside from all of this, at the same time, like you said, this is what NASCAR needs. Ross Chastain is somebody that... let's put it this way. Do you see anybody else getting marketed on NASCAR half the time except for Chase Elliott?
No.
Okay,
not one person.
NASCAR has the opportunity to market Ross Chastain. Dale Jr. talked about it on his podcast. He talked about his dad, Dale Sr. He said, when Dale Sr. was running over people back in the 80s, he didn't really own up to it a lot, but you know what? Yeah, that was the way he was driving. and then they marketed on it. He didn't come out and say, hey, man, I'm the Intimidator. Some merchandise people ran with it and gave him the moniker of the Intimidator or the Man in Black. And then he just kind of got that moniker, and that was it. And he was known as the Intimidator ever since then. We have an opportunity to market Ross Chastain at this point. Yeah, is he running people over? Sure. But if he owns up to it and he intakes this persona that people are starting to give him, oh my God. Like, hello. He could be like as famous and as popular as Chase Elliott is. But we're not. Nobody's capitalizing on that.
So is it more of the issue that Ross Chastain does not own up to it, or is it the fact that people are full of empty threats saying he does need to get his butt whooped?
I don't think it's empty threats. I think they're legitimate threats that, hey, we have a problem with this guy. But at the same time, if he just owns up to it, then maybe it won't be as big of an issue. Because like I said, he comes on TV every week after something happens, and he makes me want to feel like I'm supposed to feel sorry for him when I'm watching him on TV after he gets done talking in an interview, when he gets blamed for something. If he just says, oh, man, you know what? I did it. Yeah, absolutely, I ran him over. Slow car in my way. Oh, you know what? I raced him into the wall. It's a racing deal, man. I'm going for a win. Is there in the race? It doesn't matter if it's early in the race. I got to stay close to the front. Not, oh, man, yeah, you know, I'm sorry about that. It was my bad. He's like the villain almost, but like he's the villain that you want to hate right now.
He's the villain I love. Chastain is my favorite driver. He's better than Chase Elliott. He's better than Kyle Busch. Maybe not at the moment. Kyle Busch is on kind of a hot streak right now.
Yes, kind of.
But Ross Chastain is what NASCAR needs right now. And like you said, they need to capitalize on it and market him. And Trackhouse needs to just keep cashing this in and striking while the iron's hot. I don't think Chastain's going to change come Darlington this weekend and go, okay, I'm going to calm down, guys.
No, absolutely not.
He's not. He's going to go out there and do what Ross Chastain does and give it 110% every lap. And if you're in his way, if you're Brandon Poole in his way, you better move out of his way now. If you're some slow car, the spotter better be telling you, hey, the one car is coming up. You better get out of his way. Because he's not going to slow down whether you're a lap down, 5 laps down, or the leader and he's in second place. Ross Chastain is what NASCAR needed right now. And to put a muzzle on that and to put a restrictor plate on the momentum of that, not on the track, but on the PR side, would be ludicrous at NASCAR's point right now.
Absolutely, 100%.
And like I said, I don't see anything wrong with what he did Sunday, hitting Gragson. My uncle said it best. Instead of being mad at Chastain, he needed to be mad at his barber for giving him that haircut.
Well, his crew actually gave him that haircut.
Don't care.
That wasn't bad.
I
love the haircut. I think it's great. Personality.
I think it's the stupidest thing I've ever seen.
I love it. I love Gragson. He might be my new favorite driver, honestly.
Fine. Ross Chastain's my new favorite driver.
Oh, good.
And my driver just punched your driver in the face.
That's good. My driver didn't get a shot back, so.
Well, your driver is a whiny baby.
Yeah, he's just confronting him because nobody else is going to do it.
No, he confronted him to try to make a name for himself, and guess what? He got punched in the face for his effort.
Good. That's what they need.
And he technically should have backed off when he said stop it.
Yeah, Ross Chastain didn't really say stop it. He just said, all right, man, look. Ross Chastain was probably just going to try to explain it to him, but Ross wasn't really. He had that, I'm going to say, he had that dumb look on his face because he always does. Honestly, Ross always has this dumb look of like, I didn't do anything wrong. Like, dude, just own up to it already.
I'm glad it took 171 episodes for us to find our new favorite drivers and then for them to go at it. Because you know what? Noah Gragson's not going to make a name for himself in the Cup Series like Ross Chastain is. Ross Chastain will be a champion long before Noah Gragson even finds the exit door after his lackluster career.
Oh, man.
Noah Gragson's shining moment happened in the Xfinity Series under Junior Motorsports. That star has faded out when he went to Legacy MC.
Nah.
Absolutely.
Nah. He's got to get some time.
No.
Some guys develop their careers a lot quicker than others.
Yeah, well, guess what? Good luck.
Thank you.
Because I don't think nobody's going to get one over on Chastain. Chastain needs to stay the course, buddy. Stay the course, Chastain. And Trackhouse
He can
Racing.
stay the course. He's going to get his butt whooped eventually, but
No,
that's
he won't.
okay.
No, he won't. By who? By whom?
I think somebody will eventually.
By whom? Chase Elliott? Whatever.
Okay, I didn't say Chase Elliott.
Daddy, he hit me, Daddy. Mr. Hendrick, please do something about it. All right, let's see. Who else could make him mad? I guess maybe Denny Hamlin. Yeah, no, but Denny Hamlin's getting old. Yeah. Denny Hamlin.
So?
Yeah, he's getting old.
What if Kevin Harvick does it?
Kevin Harvick's older than Denny Hamlin. Kevin Harvick's older than Denny Hamlin, man. I don't know how that will work. Anyway, we can beat a dead horse on that one. We already kind of have. I like it. I think it's good for the sport.
I think it's great for the sport. You know, they had more Twitter engagements than Denny Hamlin spinning Kyle Larson out. Well, I mean, not really spinning him out, but I guess you could say kind of wrecking him on that last lap. Apparently, they had more Twitter engagements than that, and that's good. I mean, I think that's great. I mean, overall, both
incidences were worthy of talking about.
Absolutely.
And in fact, until you brought it up, that's all I totally forgot. Oh, yeah, that was a great last lap. It was a great race overall. Kansas was fun to watch.
Kansas has become, over the last few years, it seems like it just keeps getting better and better. For some, I don't know what it is, but it's like the groove has become like wider. I mean, you have guys running the wall now, which, I mean, years ago that wasn't really the case, but now it's almost like the groove is just everywhere. And I love it. I think it's great. I don't know if it's because the track has aged a little bit. Maybe the surface is maybe aged. Who knows?
Right.
I don't know. I mean, Darlington's becoming kind of like that up there. I mean, the last repave at Darlington was probably before 2010. I think it was like 2007. It was like, I'm sorry, like 2009, I think it was. Because 2007, Jeff Gordon won, and that it was still like really like it hadn't been repaved yet.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting there. I think Kansas is getting there. I think we'll see the next few races at Kansas. I think it'll be really good. I don't know if it has to do with that or maybe the next gen car as well.
Right.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, I think it's more the track just wearing in perfectly, and I don't know, just keep it up.
Yeah, tracks tend to go through that phase where they finally wear in perfectly.
They're in the butter zone right now, and unfortunately, on the flip side of that butter zone, it's just crappy racing, and it's gonna happen before we know it here. Anything else in regards to Chastain and Gragson?
No.
Okay, I jumped the gun here a little bit.
Oops, sorry about that.
I jumped the gun here a little bit. How did you enjoy the weekend overall? That's to include the Kansas races as well as the Miami Grand Prix for Formula One. How do you enjoy the weekend overall?
The weekend was, I mean, it was all right. The truck race was, I mean, there was a lot of cautions in that again, which
It was.
I don't know. I still can't seem to figure out why that tends to happen quite often. It's just weird. I mean, truck race is good, but just the cautions. Tony Breidinger, is that how you say your name?
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, she got 15th. Great on her. I think that was her first start, which is cool. The Miami Grand Prix, for once, I prioritized NASCAR over Formula One because I knew that the Miami Grand Prix was not going to really be anything, and thank God I did. Because what a great Kansas race it was.
It was a great Kansas race here, but now we're going to switch to Formula One here. Because the weekend overall was good. And before we actually get into Formula One here, to date, everybody's saying the Kansas race was the best race in 2023 so far. Agree or disagree?
I have to agree with that one, honestly.
I will as well.
I think I would have to say Fontana's probably close in my eyes. I think Fontana would probably be a close second to Kansas, honestly.
And unfortunately, I haven't been to a race this year because that would be my favorite race of the year. But yeah, Kansas was a fun race to watch. It was good action all around, good racing, good pit stops, good strategy, and Noah Gragson got punched in the face. So anything else before? That's about NASCAR. Kansas is over with. Great job. It was a fun race week, and I think everybody did great. Anything else before we get into the Miami Grand Prix? Because I think this is going to be more so of a Formula One heavy episode when it comes to...
No.
Okay.
Nope.
So here's what I brought up. And now this isn't in the notes here, but I wanted to show you this.
Okay.
Because it's from Twitter. It's a guy named, let's see here, Breakhard on Twitter. I don't know if you know him. He has good Twitter. He has good content when it comes to NASCAR racing and overall. I got this video clip here I want to show you because he brings up a lot of good points, and I'm just gonna, if you want me to pause it, I'll pause it. If you kind of just give me a signal, I'll pause it. But I want everybody to listen to it and go give him a follow. He has a lot of good content here, and he's talking about NASCAR, Formula One going down the same road as NASCAR here. But I want to get your 2 cents on it.
Formula One is making the same mistake NASCAR made nearly 15 years ago. NASCAR boomed in the early to mid 2000s, and at one point they had 20 million people tuning into the Daytona 500. But NASCAR got greedy and they started to chase that casual fan, and at the same time they abandoned their core fan base. At one point, NASCAR had more Fortune 500 sponsors than any other entity outside of Congress. Drivers were absolute rock stars. They were hosting SNL, they were on late night shows, they were in music videos, they were the stars of national ad campaigns. But then things started to change. In an effort to build up excitement at the end of the year, NASCAR introduced the Chase, and then another iteration of the Chase, and another iteration after that, and we're still introducing iterations today. While that was happening, they moved traditional race dates like the Southern 500 away from the Southeast and out west to California. Then they introduced the car tomorrow with a spoiler on the back, which was supposed to attract a younger fan base. It did not. And while they're doing that, chasing the casual viewer, that traditional fan, that hardcore fan, started to leave the sport. F1 is making that same mistake right now. Formula One teams have never had more sponsors than they currently do. McLaren's hoarding all of them by the looks of it. But while Drive to Survive turned these drivers into absolute rock stars, they're on late night shows from country to country. They have hordes of people around them everywhere they go. Anne Hathaway knew who Daniel Ricciardo was at the Met. That never would have happened 5 to 6 years ago. But while all this is happening, that core fan base that Formula One has had is starting to slowly shift away. Sprint races have been introduced and more will be introduced next year in an effort to make the race weekends more exciting and keep that casual fan more engaged. Traditional dates in Europe are being moved out to America and the Middle East. And at the same time, while all of that is happening, Formula One continues to try to enhance the show with things like the driver introductions we saw at Miami last week. There's more of an effort to get celebrities and influencers into the race than actually making the race good. As quickly as you can skyrocket in popularity, you can come crashing down so much faster. NASCAR experienced that, and Formula One is well on their way to experiencing that as well. And hopefully they look at the NASCAR blueprint and realize the mistakes that were made and attempt to maybe try to bring back some of that core fan base rather than chase that casual fan. Time's going to tell, though.
Okay, I wasn't expecting the boom, but agree with Break Hard or don't agree? Because I saw you shaking your head in agreement a couple times, and you mentioned before when you mentioned you prioritize NASCAR for the rare moment that over Formula One this weekend in Miami.
Yes.
Break Hard. Does he bring up a lot of good points? He's a great guy to follow. Make sure to go follow him on Twitter. Great guy to listen to because his point of views are usually spot on with what we talk about here on the show. Agree, disagree? What do you think?
Oh, absolutely, 100% agree. I mean, that guy could never be so not wrong, if that even sounds even correct.
Right.
I mean,
he's
absolutely 100%. Everything he said there is absolutely correct. We have talked about stuff before like this.
Well, you brought it up. When they had the sprint race. They changed up the formats for the sprint race, and as well, I should say, as the weekend overall.
Yeah.
For what was it, Azerbaijan? Yes. And they changed up everything for that race weekend, and it was just you weren't a big fan, and that's where I start to. That's where you peaked last year. I dare say a couple years ago with Formula One. And then you're starting to come down to my level here with Formula One, where it's one team. Usually, when we started this show, when we started in the marbles, it was Mercedes, Lewis Hamilton. Oh, don't bet against Hamilton. He's on a hot streak. Verstappen all of a sudden came up, and now it's Verstappen, Red Bull, and Perez. And it's just it's a one-dog fight. It's a one-pony show. And what happened in Miami, I got another bit to talk about you for that. But the Miami race wasn't that bad. I actually watched Miami before I watched NASCAR because I caught well over 100 laps to go in NASCAR. It was fine, but to me it wasn't. It was a status quo weekend. But back to what Breakard was saying, and this topic was on. Now I see, the sprint races. They're trying to get those casual fans to become the hardcore fans. The traditionalists, like you and I dare say, are in the world of Formula One. Maybe not as traditional as other ones, but see the weekend format going away and go, no, I enjoy the three-tier qualifying. I enjoy the free practices. I enjoy everything that is to do for the weekend because it's interesting to watch and soak it all in. Just like happy hour. I miss happy hour.
Yeah.
I miss qualifying. I miss the whole weekend as a whole where the stands were full during the qualifying sessions for, doesn't matter if it was Truck, Xfinity, or Cup, or Craftsman Truck Series, Busch Series, or Winston Cup Series. It doesn't matter. Their stands were full. There's another one I want to talk about later on. It's about Speed Weeks. The downfall of Speed Weeks. Speed Weeks is nothing anymore. It's not even Speed Weeks.
Right.
But this Break Hard, I want to hear your event. You've heard kind of me just kind of beat around the bush here, but he's not wrong.
No, he's not wrong. I did bring it up when we talked about Azerbaijan, Baku. The sprint race was introduced, I think it was 2 years ago. I can't.
It was like 2020, 2021.
Yeah. And even then, I wasn't really a big fan of it. And then it happened. I was like, I mean, okay, I guess I can accept it. I mean, it was kind of like, it doesn't really make any sense because the top 8 were still getting points in the sprint race, but the sprint race was going to set the field for Sunday. So then it was like, so what's the point in qualifying for the sprint race if you're not really good? Okay, so
line them up by constructors championship points or something.
Okay, so for example, last year Kevin Magnussen got the pole at Brazil. Granted, it was rain, and he got a fast lap in before it started raining. So then once it rains, I mean, that's pretty much it. You put rain tires on, you're still going to run 10 seconds slower, or whatever, 15, whatever. So he got his lap in before everybody else could. I mean, it was crazy how it happened. So he technically got the pole. He got the pole, and he technically won the pole for the weekend. But then the sprint race happens, and then he finishes, I don't know, outside the top 8 or whatever. So then he's starting outside. He's starting like, I think he started like 10th or something like that for the real race. And it's just like, what was the point in that? What's the point in getting to start first, but then I got to start first for the sprint, but the sprint is going to set the field? What's the point in even qualifying at that point then? It's just like this time around, this year, F1 decides, oh, you know, there were rumors out there I talked about it, there were rumors for the first few weeks of the season of some so-called changes to the sprint format. And I was like, oh, well, hopefully this can't be true. Obviously, it must be some kind of rumor. And then they hit it with us. Bam! The week before Azerbaijan. And they're like, hey, guess what? You know, you get one free practice session and we're going to qualify on Friday. And I was like, well, here's the downfall right here. Nobody inside the United States is going to be able to watch it because it wasn't picked up on ESPN or ESPN2 because it's happening at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Friday when all the major ESPN shows are on TV. There's strike one. Then they say, oh, well, the sprint race is going to happen on Saturday, but we're actually going to have a separate qualifying for that. Okay, well, there's strike two. Why do I need to go through the paces of trying to qualify in the top 3 or top 5 for this sprint race to score points when it's not even going to matter on Sunday? Again, why?
No, I agree.
You're getting rid of all, and it's just like how NASCAR did. They got rid of all of these practice sessions. We barely get to see you practice. And, you know, you can spare me the bull crap of this whole, oh, well, we got technology these days. The Sims put it pretty damn close to what the real car is on Sunday. Get out of here with that. That's such a load of bull crap, okay? You know, yes, I understand. I understand it. I get it. That the sim, they can set up the sim to almost mirror what's happening on Sunday, but nothing can get you prepared for what the real thing is without actually having some kind of practice in the car on the track itself.
Now it feels like in the Marbles Weekly Racing Podcast.
It does, doesn't it?
Yes,
and you know
it does.
I'm so glad that it came to my mind because I was listening to all these talk shows and seeing all these things on the YouTube about, oh, the sim gets you close. That is the biggest load of bullcrap I have ever heard. I understand that the technology is there, and those guys are in the sim all week long. But the practice is for on the track. The sim does not get you 100% there. I don't care if you could set the car up. Nothing beats feeling the actual car itself when you're on the track and being able to tell certain things. And that's just where the downfall. And I think the downfall of it was it had to have been probably COVID really put the nail in the coffin. I think with that, I don't really know how much practice we had before COVID, but COVID really, really got rid of that. After that, we were just like, oh, I'm just gonna show up to the track and race.
Yep,
We'll qualify maybe once or twice here and there,
Yep.
but we're gonna set the field based on the metrics. Because we have no idea what we're doing, and we're just a bunch of hacks at this point. You need a doctor. You need a rocket science degree to figure out where we're going to start and everything like that. But yes, he's absolutely right. Formula One is about to go down the same path that NASCAR has gone down.
Right.
Now, Formula One doesn't have to worry about any kind of championship playoff system because they're staying true to that right now.
Yeah. No.
Which, I mean, if they were to introduce something, maybe like how when NASCAR first introduced the chase, where it was like the top 10, okay, I might fly with that.
I wouldn't even get on the board with that.
I might
whatsoever. No
give
way.
it a chance.
No way.
Because, I would rather NASCAR go back to that.
Yeah.
The top 10 and that's it. None of this bullcrap win and you're in kind of deal crap because to me, I don't like it. Yes, it makes you race harder. Cool. But to me, racing is about the marathon of the entire season. Back in the day when guys wrecked out, but they fixed that car, and guess what? We're going back out there to get some points because we got to gain some positions in the standings.
Right.
Not nowadays where it's like, oh, well, we crashed the car. Well, we got really nothing to go for, so we're done for the day.
Right.
I like that. That just doesn't seem like hardcore racing to me anymore. And maybe he sees what I see when they chase the casual fan. It's the new generation of fans that I really think it has to do with they just can't sit through a long period of racing, whether it be a long green flag run or not. And NASCAR can spare me the bullcrap also of when they decided to introduce the stages as, oh, it's a break so everybody could get up and we could, bring in sponsorships and everything like that, and you run commercials during it. That's bullcrap because you run a hell of a lot of commercials during the actual race itself still, even without stages. They're catering to fans that can't sit there and just watch the race anymore. So all the fans probably complain that, oh, we can't do it, so we're going to break it up into stages and make it more exciting. No. NASCAR just shoots themselves in the foot with that. No. And I said what I said. I'll die on the hill, and I don't care. I really don't care. Love me, hate me.
In the Marvel's Weekly Racing
Podcast. In the Marvel's is full-fledged
Throwback.
going at it today, baby, and I don't care.
Right. Okay. Well, fair enough, bud. I agree with him. I agree with you. They better be careful. Look at the faults of others before they go down this path.
Absolutely. They really need to be careful.
Yep. I agree with you there. All right. Anything else in regards to what Braycart said?
No, but I'm glad that you had that.
Yep.
That was really good.
I saw that today and I said, well, that needs to be on the show.
If for anybody out there that watches both NASCAR and F1 and does not see anything, if you look at that and say, I don't see anything wrong with that. Oh man, well,
Here's what I can relate it to. If you're a Formula One fan or on the FIA or do anything that has to do with the policy, what Formula One brings to the track, that's your iceberg and you're on the Titanic. Stop and readjust course. Don't keep going and hit it because then you're going to sink. NASCAR, I feel like, is now starting to recover from what they did back in with the COT and the new chase format and the playoff system. And, we got to bring in the wild cards because Jeff Gordon didn't make it. We got to bring in we got to expand the playoffs because Dale Earnhardt Jr. didn't make it. Heaven forbid Chase Elliott doesn't make it this year.
Oh, God, they would lose it.
Heaven forbid they would change it for next year, making a Chase Elliott clause saying, hey, the most popular driver gets a automatic buy-in. Last year's most popular driver gets an automatic buy-in. I'm sure they make up some stupid rule like that for Chase Elliott. I'm surprised they didn't make it for Dale Jr.
Well, I also, real quick before we move on, before we move on, I think another thing that he really said in there, what he was talking about, was the whole Netflix Drive to Survive thing. So when that first came out years ago, it was actually really good. I haven't watched this season because I have no desire to, because after watching last season and seeing how Netflix tries to hype a lot of stuff up, but then when you go back and look at it, half that stuff does not match up with where the season was occurring at the time that they were filming. I'm just like, they're just trying to make it a big drama when it's really not. Or they're making it to a drama, but they're not doing it accurately. Let's put it that way. They kind of go off course with all these different things that don't match up with the season, that when, whatever episode it is. So
can you give us a for instance?
No, I can't really, honestly, because I can't remember, because when I watched last season, it was last year, and when this season came out, I was like, nah, I'm not, because I feel like they're trying to make it this huge drama when it doesn't really, it is, don't get me wrong, Formula One is it can be very big drama. There is. Those teams are competing for spots because they get money based on where they can finish in the Constructors' Championship. So, heck yeah, it gets really, tooth and nail and everything like that. But, he's right, honestly.
All right. Well, that makes sense. And we'll go ahead and move on from here, because we still got a couple more things to talk about here. One in particular here. Let me ask you this before we get into this. When you're at NASCAR race, whether it be Darlington, Charlotte, you're going to the Coca-Cola 600 this year, I want you to do something for me. I got a mission for you. Okay. I'll explain it to you at the end of this. Do you ever look at NASCAR hats for, let's just say, Noah Gragson and Legacy Motor Club? Mm-hmm. You look at their stuff, and what's about the average price for a driver pit road cap?
I think it's about $25 or $30. It depends. Usually it varies between about $25 and $30. You'll have some hats that are $25 all the way up to $30. About $30.
About $30, $35, maybe $40 for a hat. What would you say the T-shirt cost?
The T-shirts are usually about $25.
Now, if you want
some are $30. It's about the $25 to $35 range. I'll say that.
If you want to get maybe a driver like I have a Brad Keselowski Miller Lite one, it looks like his fire suit, like the one right there. Mm-hmm. Maybe $50, if that. It depends on what it is, what it's made of, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly, yeah.
But you would expect to maybe spend, if you're at your driver's tent, maybe get a flag or stuff, maybe spend about $100, give or take.
Yeah, you could $100 get you a hat, a T-shirt, maybe a koozie, maybe. Maybe like you said, a flag, or one of the license plate holder things.
You could get a good deal for $100. You could
absolutely.
You could score big.
Yeah.
Go wide shot here. Look at the prices there for the Formula One.
Look at the hats.
9 hats are $90. The shirts that say Charles Leclerc and has Charles Leclerc's number on there, $110. A black shirt with a Ferrari emblem on it, $190. I will never, ever complain about prices at NASCAR races again. This is from, I believe, a NASCAR Facebook group that talks about buy, sell, trade merchandise. You could go on there, maybe get a good deal on sheet metal.
I did see a picture similar to this circulating on social media, but it wasn't of that. But it was. But
the prices are flat across the board. This is just an example of Ferrari. A Max Verstappen Red Bull hat, $90. Max Verstappen shirt, $110. A Red Bull team shirt, $190.
Yeah, I saw Aston Martin. You could have gotten like a jacket for like $200.
$200. The twill jackets I used to grab at every NASCAR race for drivers, it didn't matter who, were $160, $150.
Yeah,
depending on who it is.
Well, it was that, and then there was like a rain jacket for it was almost like $300.
Right. It's just absolutely astronomically ridiculous. The prices at Formula One races. Now, I'm not sitting here going capitalism's bad, because obviously people were willing to spend that money for it. And by all means, if I was there and I had $200 to spare, I don't know how I'm going to eat or what how I'm going to buy my beer, but I'll look good in my Ferrari hat and shirt. That Ferrari flag over there by my toolbox, $20.
Wow, what a deal.
$20, and I was like, yeah, I'll buy that. Absolutely. I can't imagine what it's like. Go to the independent vendors if you go to a Formula One race, because that's where I bought that. It's the independent vendor.
Yeah.
It wasn't at Ferrari.
Well, my Haas F1 shirt, that polo with that nice material, I got it on sale on the F1 website at the time. It was like $70 on sale from like $100.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous. The prices there. So here's my mission to you. When you go to Charlotte for the Coca-Cola 600, I don't care if it's Noah Gragson, I don't care if it's Kyle Busch, whomever it is, go up and snap a quick photo acting like, hey, you know, I'm going to buy you a hat. What you want? Show me a picture. And I want you to get the prices. And when you get back after the Memorial Day weekend there, the big race weekend we're all looking forward to, we're going to put these two photos up side by side.
Okay.
And wonder why the steering wheel in Formula One costs $10,000, whereas the steering wheel in NASCAR probably costs $120, $200. And we'll see where the money's coming from. It isn't from sponsors; it's from the guy spending $300 on merchandise.
I think it's just. I think it comes down to Formula One being just such an elitist sport, as someone would say. I mean, that sport is just enthralled with money.
No, there's money in Formula One. I mean, we're going to see it in Monaco. It's yachts and champagne and caviar. You bring this to a Formula One race.
Oh, they're kicking you out.
And they're going to snuff up their nose at you.
They're kicking you out.
There's no way I could walk in with shirts, a T-shirt, and a hat going, hey, y'all, man, this is a good day for racing. They'd look at me like I'm the hillbilly jackrabbit from hell. There's no way I would get away with it. Unless I'm in slacks, $200,000, $5,000 pair of sunglasses, a nice watch, nice cologne, have my wife in something revealing and going, hey, we're here for the race. They're going to go, yeah, okay, he knows what he's up to.
Yeah, they belong.
Whereas if I do that in NASCAR and come in there like that, it's like, oh my gosh, are you a driver? Yes. And this is my wife, my trophy wife.
What's your name?
I
don't have time to talk.
I don't have time to talk. I have to go. Whereas in Formula One, I'd just be another face in the crowd.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Whereas if I wear this, I'm a face in the crowd in NASCAR. I get it. There's money in Formula One, but golly.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money and you can only imagine there would be a kid there at the Red Bull tent going, I want a Max Verstappen hat, and the dad's going, hell no. Absolutely not, boy. That's my 401k right there. I'm going to have nothing.
Oh, man.
Do you want the hat or do you want to go to college?
Absolutely. Hey, man, absolutely. In these hard economic times, boy, that's
how
tough.
How are we gonna pay to go home? we can't go home if I buy a hat, man. It's not going to be good for us. So, okay, I just wanted to bring that up. That was a little
that's good.
Off the beaten path here.
No, that's good.
Yeah, okay, so the next thing I want to talk about here, and this isn't a big topic, but we mentioned, Breakhard mentioned it. It was the driver intros for this past weekend's race at Miami. Now, if you ask me, if you're watching this on YouTube and you see the picture in the background, I personally like the intros.
I didn't get to see the intros.
The intros were like this. LL Cool J was there.
I did see a picture of LL Cool J.
Reading off the names and like, from Finland, Valtteri Bottas. And Bottas would come out like Sergio Perez is right now. Waves to the crowd. Typically what you'd see in a NASCAR race, whatever, Truck Xfinity Cup, ARCA.
Yeah, absolutely.
A driver introductions for the fans. I think this is the first time I've ever seen it done like this in Formula One.
Yeah.
Usually they parade the guys around to, the team car and they wave to the fans. They do a quick lap. That's about it. I don't mind this. This was one of those things where when I was watching this race, I thought, wow, this is nice. And it didn't hurt that there were beautiful cheerleaders right there waving them on. It's like, okay, that's what kind of drew me in.
Yeah.
You want to create a racing series? This is the 3 ingredients that you need to create a successful racing series. Fast, loud cars, beer, and beautiful women. Pit girls, trophy girls, beautiful women. And guess what? You have those 3 ingredients mixed in. You have the makings of a successful racing series. What's NASCAR done? You don't see trophy girls in.
But they used to.
No. You're not anymore.
But they did.
Where are the Monster Energy girls? Well, they're gone because Monster's no longer in there. Where's Miss Winston? Oh, well, she's gone. Where's Miss Spring Cup? Where's Miss Nextel? Gone. You can't have Miss Cup Series. That's degrading the women. You can't have fast, loud cars. The EPA will be mad at you. You can't have beer because, heaven forbid, you drink the wrong beer these days. People are going to boycott it.
All good points.
Great points. You can't have pit road girls anymore holding up the signs and national flags for the drivers in Formula One anymore because you're degrading women. You can't have trophy girls anymore because that's degrading to women. No, this isn't a political rant. This is what I'm telling you. If you want to create a successful racing series, a plethora of beer, beautiful women serving the beer or in victory lane doing the trophies, loud, fast cars, and you have the making of the most awesome series ever. If I hit the Powerball, guess what? Buying a track, beautiful women, beer, loud, fast cars. I will beat NASCAR in 5 years.
Oh, man. I would love to see that.
Well, if I hit the Powerball. But I have something to add on to this. That was just a rant here. That was my in the marbles moment for the show.
All right.
I don't mind this because, again, the beautiful women kind of suckered me in. It was like, well, I'm a sucker for a pretty set of eyes. So, okay, I'll listen. I didn't even know it was LL Cool J. I was like, oh, yeah, that's that guy. I was looking at the girls doing their choreography.
I haven't seen that guy in a while.
Yeah, I was like, man, that guy looks familiar. Like I knew him growing up. Like he was in a Fast and Furious. He was in a movie or two that I saw in the early 2000s. Here's what I want to bring up here. This is from George Russell here. And I'm just going to read you just a quick top third of the article because it's more relevant to what we have going on here. George Russell said following the race during an interview, I'll just read you the article. Formula One star George Russell was upset over driver introductions before the start of the Miami Grand Prix on Sunday as racers had to wait for LL Cool J to call their name before entering their vehicles. Driver introductions. LL Cool J was chosen to get the crowd hyped up at Miami International Autodrome in Miami Gardens, Florida, and will.i.am played his new single, The Formula, which led to the symphony of drivers walking out to the starting grid. However, Russell, that's George Russell, told reporters that he has better use of his time 30 minutes before the race. I guess it's an American thing to do. The British driver said, I'm here to race, not here for the show. I'm here to win. He finished 4th, so about 26 seconds back, if I'm not mistaken. I'm here to win. I don't think there's another sport in the world that 30 minutes before you go out and do your business, you're out there in the sun and all the cameras and making a bit of a show out of it. I can appreciate it if it was the entertainment world. Apparently, George Russell doesn't watch NASCAR. More specifically, like the Coca-Cola 600. You're going to see a show there. Mm-hmm. The Daytona 500. I mean, just 45 minutes to an hour before drivers start, driver intros. It's a long day there at Daytona for the Formula One race, or for the Daytona 500. Russell, who's also director of the Grand Prix Drivers Association, and his colleagues were open to the change, but did not want to see similar pomp and circumstances every weekend. I can understand that. Miami, maybe Las Vegas.
Las Vegas
they're
probably.
They're going to hype something up there. F1 said Monday that drivers expressed concerns about the pre-race festivities. A spokesman told the Associated Press that the organization would continue to listen to drivers' concerns about pre-race festivities. And then it says Russell finished in 4th place. I love that jab. Screw you, Brennan. But, I can't disagree. Because there have been times where we have said on this show the pomp and circumstance could have been done away with. We could have been racing 2 hours beforehand or an hour beforehand. Do you agree? Now, here's my question to you. I know I went on In the Marbles rant. We're going to call it that from our. That's our coin. If we go on a rant, it's called an In the Marbles rant.
Oh, I like it.
Do you agree with George Russell that there is too much pomp and circumstance, or it's like, hey man, it's just one time, it's no big deal? I mean, where do you stand on this?
I mean, I can agree and disagree with him. It's probably something new to him, to some of the drivers. Now, so when I hear comments of him talking about, talking about standing in the sun and stuff like that with cameras, I don't know if he's really referring to if it was just too hot or not. But if he was, I can say this. Those drivers aren't used to the temperatures that are over here than some of the places that they go to in Europe. Like, for example, over here in the United States, when it's hot, there's a lot of places with the humidity where it makes it even hotter. Just sticky and just downright annoying. Like, I've listened to Formula One races last year, and they still talk about it before the race starts, or even during qualifying. They'll come on the air and they'll say, oh, the temperature is this. They'll say it, of course, in Celsius, not Fahrenheit, but they do have it broken down of what it would be in Fahrenheit, and they'll say, oh, it's a really hot day here today, and it's like 75 degrees, and you're just like, that's nothing. Are you kidding me? I would kill for a 75-degree race day right now, Especially us NASCAR fans, when I'm going to go to Charlotte here in a couple weeks. I'm sure it's going to be hotter than Satan. Hell out there. Definitely for Darlington in September. Absolutely.
It was hot there when we went to the Roval. Remember that? It was a hot
was
week.
Hot.
And it was more humid than anything. But it was hot. I mean, I remember cooking, and I was outside, and while you and Charlie and Dad were inside watching the football games, I'm cooking. It's like, man, you guys going to come out here and help? It's like, no, it's AC in here. But yeah, it is hot here, and hence the reason.
I think that's what it has. I think he's maybe referring to some of that, and it's probably throwing him off his game because let's be real, those guys are like in the zone all the way up until they got to get in their car. They get out there, I don't know, like an hour before the race starts, and they do that little quick warm-up lap kind of deal. They drive the car to the grid, they drive it around, make sure everything's good to go, whatever, blah, 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 testing systems, and then they park it on the grid wherever they're supposed to park. Or they pull up and the teams, lift the car up and they wheel it or whatever. But after that, they get out of the car and they're still doing things. I've seen Pierre Gasly plenty of times, but right before he gets in the car, he's still doing all kinds of pre-race stuff, with the tennis balls, catching the tennis balls, making sure that his hand-eye coordination is still going. I think that's what George Russell was kind of referring to. I can find better time, better things to do 30 minutes before the race than to stand here for this. I think that's what it really boils down to. It's just they're up until they get in the car, they are trying to stay focused. You guys listening to music and stuff like that. When you look at NASCAR races, those guys, when they're waiting for driver interviews, they're all just sitting around shooting the bull. Hey, man, how's the family doing? Things are great. Everyone's talking, hanging out, having a good time. It's like two completely different racing series. That's how I see it.
All right, that's fair enough, man, because I just wanted to get your viewpoint on that because I didn't mind the intros again.
Yeah, I mean, they I don't think they've ever really had it.
No, I've never seen it, but, the cheerleaders kind of suckered me in. I was kind of like, yeah, I'll watch this.
I mean, I don't think they had – they never do that for COTA, so –
No.
But probably, you're right, probably going to be Las Vegas.
Las Vegas is going to be
real.
And it's not going to be any cooler. It's going to be that dry desert heat right then. Ooh, it's going to be. Ugh. Anything else regarding the Formula One weekend or anything like that, the Miami Grand Prix?
No.
Okay. Well, now we get into this, Preston. The big weekend here, Darlington Throwback Weekend, a NASCAR tradition here at the Lady in Black, one of NASCAR's oldest continually running speedways that still host a Cup Series race. Big question here before I get into this. The Throwback Weekend used to be the Southern 500 weekend, the Labor Day race. When they added the second schedule, when Darlington was added on for a second date here for Mother's Day, they moved the Throwback Weekend from the Southern 500 to what is now the Goodyear 400. in order to make differences in what's going on here. Should NASCAR, let me ask you this, was that a mistake on NASCAR's part, or keep it the way it is, Throwback Weekend being its own separate thing from the Southern 500?
Now, I think Throwback Weekend should be coincided with the Southern 500. I mean, the Southern 500 was the race at Darlington ever since they pretty much started racing there. I mean, that's anytime you refer to Darlington, it's always Southern 500.
Right.
The big race of the year, the Southern 500 Darlington. That's what Throwback Weekend should be.
Bigger in my opinion, than the Daytona 500, than Talladega, than anything else. The Southern 500 to me is the race where you want to go to because of the tradition and the history there. But then, and compared to the Daytona 500, where a lot of it I feel like is luck, it's a driver's racetrack. If you win there, you drove that car for 500 miles and won a crown jewel event.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I messed up the cameras there, by the way.
Oh, well, hey, that's okay.
It's okay. In the marbles.
Yeah, no. I really think that Throwback Weekend should go back to the Southern 500. Is it kind of running its course? Maybe. But I like to... This kind of popped into my head a little bit. We like to see all these throwback schemes and how teams incorporate the scheme with whatever sponsor they have. How can we incorporate a throwback scheme but still keep the sponsor?
Right.
To me, the Southern 500 is a bigger race than what the Goodyear 400 is, or what we know as the Goodyear 400 right now is. The Southern 500 is, if I'm not mistaken, start of the playoffs. Is that correct?
You're correct.
A lot of eyes are on TV for the start of the playoffs. You put Throwback Weekend then, and you have all these throwback schemes. It gives teams even longer to figure out a throwback scheme. We get to see what kind of throwback schemes they can come up with. We get to see all the playoff drivers, and those sponsors that have those throwback schemes are hoping that the throwback schemes are showcased a heck of a lot more, because then that's more sponsor airtime for them. Not saying that it's not that way for it now at Throwback Weekend now coming up, but it just seems like there's no really build up to this for this race on Mother's Day, which that's just the way it is sometimes, just like say back in years ago when Bristol had the 2 dates before the dirt race, what was always the more popular race during the year? The night race. Yep. The night race was always the one they were looking forward to. Yeah, cool. It's cool to go to Bristol during the day, but the night race was always the one that everybody wanted to talk about. The night race. So the 500 is the night race these days. I feel like Throwback Weekend should be NASCAR. If NASCAR wants to stick to some kind of tradition, that's when Throwback Weekend should be, because the Southern 500 has always been the race that's been around in NASCAR that happens at Darlington. That's just my opinion.
All right, fair enough, man. I couldn't agree with you more. I think having the throwback with the Southern 500 is a great tie-in for the history. It's a great tie-in for the history of the sport and showcase throwbacks and to do everything like that. I think it would be great to see that back. I think as long as there's a second date with Darlington, I think that's going to trump the Throwback Weekend to maybe not the most popular race, but let's try to make the Goodyear 400 a popular race as well, it being throwback. And I think, I mean, really, either one, Throwback is a fun weekend. Darlington's a fun weekend regardless. Now, do I prefer the night race over the day race? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Darlington is not fun to sit in the sun.
No, it is not.
The last time we went there, we saw Martin Truex win.
Yeah, that's right.
It was a great race. The only downfall is, man, it was hot all day. It was not fun. It was not fun to sit in those stands all day. Or for me, if I do photography, it's going to be at Darlington.
Yeah.
To walk around in that heat all day. Now, when the sun set at the Southern 500, when I did photography, that's when it was okay. I can relax a little more. It's a little cooler. It's cooling off, and I could enjoy myself a little more. I can enjoy this experience a little more. You're sitting shoulder to shoulder with 60,000 other people Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's annoying.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would like to see you go back to the Southern 500 weekend. Is it going to happen? Not unless the Mother's Day weekend goes away for Darlington.
I think they could still. I think they could switch it, but I really don't want Darlington to lose its second date again.
No, I don't either, because if I had the option, I'd be there already this weekend. It just didn't work out for me. Will I be there in Labor Day weekend? I'm hoping. That's the one race I want to go to. If I could pick one race to go to every year, okay, Southern 500, right up the road, convenient, always a good time, and I know where the Walmart is.
Yeah, I mean, what better way to
what better way to
celebrate NASCAR than one of the oldest tracks on the circuit?
Absolutely. So that's what I have to say about it. Anything else before we get into our start times and picks for this weekend's races?
Nope.
All right, the start time for this weekend's races at Darlington. The Cup Series will be, we'll start off with the Truck Series here. Truck Series will be Friday, May 12th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on FS1, the only night race. There's Truck Series. Last year you were there.
Yep. At
your Truck Series, a fun race. And didn't somebody throw a water bottle and hit the truck?
Yeah, it almost hit John Hunter Nemechek. That's right. I do remember that now. Yeah, I do remember that.
Because I remember you texting me and saying, "Oh, that was scary."
Yeah, it was. It was a good time. It was good. It rained actually. I think it rained that afternoon too. I mean, it rained right as we had gotten there.
Of course.
But
that is something with the rain in Darlington. There's always rain in Darlington. So the only night race will be the Truck Series race again. Friday, May 12th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on FS1. Xfinity Series, Saturday, May 13th at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Fox. That's surprising here because listen to this. The Cup Series race, the Goodyear 400 Throwback Weekend for NASCAR, Sunday, May 14th, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on FS1. The only race on Big Fox is the Xfinity Series race.
That's interesting.
It is interesting, bud, but... All right, Preston, before we get into our final thoughts here on this week's episode of In the Marbles Weekly Racing Podcast, Throwback Weekend for this show, winners for the Truck, Xfinity, and Cup races from Darlington, you want me to go first, or do you want to go first?
What do you have?
All right, for the Truck Series, Stuart Friesen.
Okay, interesting.
For the Xfinity Series, Austin Hill. And for the Cup Series, my new favorite driver, Ross Chastain.
Wow. All right. I like it. All
right. What do you got for the Truck, Xfinity, and Cup?
Trucks, Ty Majeski. Finished 4th last year.
Good pick.
Xfinity, Riley Herbst. He finished top 5 last year as well.
Okay.
I like him. And my pick to win this weekend in the Cup Series, Kyle Busch.
Okay.
He's running the scheme he ran at Fontana. They won.
Yep.
And last I checked, that 8 car in general was fast last year at Darlington.
Okay.
If they bring another fast car, and Kyle Busch was leading last year, I believe at I can't remember which. I think it was the fall race, but it doesn't matter. I mean, he always drives
and then
well.
He blew up.
Yeah, he always drives well.
Yeah,
at Darlington.
He does. He just doesn't.
I think if they bring a fast 8 car combined with the scheme which is funny because they dropped that. The RCR said, "Oh, here's our throwback scheme. We're throwing it back to Kyle Busch's first win with us."
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that, and I was like, "How?" Somebody dropped the ball on that one. Somebody went, "Hey, Richard Trill." You could just see Richard Trill just coming up. Hey, Bill, you need to come up with the throwback schemes for the 3 and 8 car. And he's like, "Okay, I got it." And 4 months later, Bill, you got those throwback schemes? Yeah, I got something. I got a great idea, boss. I got a great idea. How about now? Listen, this is just tentative. We throw it back to Austin Dillon's and Kyle Busch's first win with us, and you could sit there and then go, "That's a great idea." And then he was like, "Oh."
I just see that
God.
I just don't see the.
That is the stupidest thing.
I just don't think the teams really put the effort into it anymore.
If Richard Childress could get more stupid,
I just don't think everybody.
But you make it. Yeah, I mean, it's like that's another thing to talk about. I think maybe after this weekend has the throwback weekend lost its luster.
I think it has, honestly,
and maybe that's something to cover here.
I think Kyle Busch gets the win. He's going to go 2 for 2 with that scheme that he's running.
And then they're just going to run it every week.
They might as well if it's winning,
if
you know.
It's winning, man. But hey, man, do you have anything else before we get into our final thoughts here on this week's episode of In the Marbles Weekly Racing Podcast?
I do not.
All right, well, let's get into our final thoughts. Before we wrap up today's episode, I wanted to remind everyone out there about a partner that has been with Ramblin About Racing since we were called In the Marbles Weekly Racing Podcast and since we were on the Unhinged Sports Network, and that is Fanatics. Fanatics is your one-stop shop for everything NASCAR, for your favorite drivers' t-shirts, hoodies, hats, die-cast, and so much more. But it isn't just NASCAR. I get all my Alabama Crimson Tide gear from there, as well as my Washington Capitals gear there as well. One-stop shop for everything you need, any type of sport you need. Links can be found under the sponsor tab at ramblinaboutracin.com, as well as under the podcast description and YouTube description, depending on whether you're watching or listening to Ramblin About Racing. Head over there right now and get your favorite sports gear need for this upcoming season.
White flag, white flag. White flag, white flag. White flag. 1 lap to go. 1 lap, Raider.
Final thoughts on this week's episode of In the Marbles Weekly Racing Podcast. Throwback weekend here. Very thankful for everybody tuning into us, whether you're here on your regular podcast platform or on YouTube. Really do appreciate it. Now it comes to our most favorite part of the show here, Preston. The weekly fantasy standings. I did, contrary to popular belief, compared to what you see there, I did make a valiant effort, I feel, to try and put myself back in contention.
You finished third this past weekend. Third.
I finished third. Okay.
It's good. Yours truly finished first.
Okay, it doesn't matter. Because when I was looking at the highlights and the live update, I was 14th at one point.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I was well, this is like a typical weekend for me. I feel like Williams.
You reeled it back in.
You know, but I reeled it back in for a podium, man.
Yeah,
sure
did.
So let's go ahead and hear our fantasy standings for this week's race following Kansas, and I'm looking forward to Darlington. I must say this. I was kind of hoping you would I picked Ross Chastain to win here at Darlington this week, and you picked Kyle Busch. I was kind of hoping you would pick Gragson.
I would have picked Eric Jones second.
Well, no, I would know, but I really wish you would have picked Gragson. I would have said, okay, well then whoever finishes higher, the loser has to get their hair cut like Noah Gragson.
I would proudly own a bowl cut.
Yeah, you would. But okay, that was just going to be a bet I was going to throw out there. Anyway, go ahead and read off the standings or the updated standings following this weekend's races at Kansas there, Preston.
All right, here we go. Updated standings. Drum roll, because, well, you're still last. So what? I'm sorry.
After finishing third?
Yeah, you are in 14th with 1,741 points, and Smokin' Woody is 13th with 1,743 points. You're 2 points back.
Okay, I'm getting there.
You're almost out of the bottom again.
As long as I don't finish last, I don't care.
B-Nun 3 is 12th with 1,773. Sissy K is 11th, 1,784. Super Sumo 10th at 1,810. Grocery Getter 6 sits 9th, 1,844. Chuck 8384, which is Charlie, sits 8th at 1,871. TS Promo D, 1,917 points, sitting 7th. 6th is the Money Team Moon Rovers at 1,941. S-Blades is 5th with 1,962. The Sports Stove is 4th with 1,981. And now we get into the 2000s. Matt Camper is 3rd, 2,031. DraftKings research lineup has now been knocked out of the lead, sitting second at 2,124. And ladies and gentlemen, that is right. You are about to hear it here first. I am sitting in first. SMR Operations, 2,128 points. Throw up the number ones, baby, because it's here to stay.
Now, I bet you've been waiting ever since the checkered flag fell at Kansas to come here and say,
"Oh man,
I am number one." I did it, even drinking the Mountain Dew plug. I'd like to thank Mountain Dew for all.
I'd like to thank Mountain Dew. Without them, this whole endeavor would not be possible. I'd like to thank the Marbles Weekly Racing Podcast for supporting me in these fantasy endeavors. No matter how angry I get on the microphone, I owe it all to them. We battled hard out there. It was a little weird at first, kind of funky. I didn't know if I needed to bring in the garage driver or not, but you know what? Hey, I left it the way it was. And, well, stick to your guns and you'll finish first. Stay in school, kids.
You are aware if you do win this season, the payout for the fantasy league will go up from $200 to $300, right?
That's right, but you know what? I'll be the winner, and that's all that matters because number one is the best. And I guess I'll say it, even though I really can't stand it. If you're not first, you're last.
Yeah, be cliche there, Preston. Okay, well, let's go from this weekend. Let's go from the fantasy standings to this week in NASCAR. I love this part of the show because it's the history of the sport, and that being Throwback Weekend. We're all about more so history here than I think Throwback Weekend is.
Yeah.
But this is going to be a good throwback here. Drum roll, please. Not as anticipated as the fantasy standings here, I feel. But we go back to 1997, April 13th, 1997. Jeff Gordon nudges past Rusty Wallace on the final lap to win the Food City 500 at Bristol Motor Speedway. 20 caution flags fly, and 132 laps are ran single file formation.
20 caution flags?
20 caution flags at Bristol, Tennessee. And that happened April 13th, 1997 in Preston.
Caution flags. Holy cow.
Yeah, it happens, man.
Yeah.
Preston, that was our Throwback Weekend episode. How do you enjoy it?
Oh, great. It was nice to throw it back to In the Marbles.
I wish you still had the shirt, man.
I got the shirt. It just doesn't fit me very well anymore. I think I might have gained a few lbs down there. The gut is kind of sticking out a little bit further than usual.
And you don't even drink beer.
No, I do not. So
that's what's crazy, man. All right. Well, you have anything else to say, anything else whatsoever before we wrap it up here on this week's episode of In the Marbles Weekly Racing Podcast Throwback?
Nope. I'm just thankful for everybody that continues to listen to us week in and week out, man. The hardcore listeners.
Yeah. The dedicated listeners.
Not the casual fans. The hardcore dedicated
We're
listeners.
not trying to catch the casual fans and bring them in. We're trying to keep the hardcore fan base.
Right.
What you expect here every week from this show. Come back, keep listening to it. If you're brand new to the show, subscribe to everything.
Yeah, subscribe, spread the word. Check out all the videos on YouTube, man. Let everybody know, we're not the usual, I like to say usual racing podcast. I like to think we have our own thing going sometimes,
We'll eventually be the Dale Jr. download.
Yeah, well, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I'm going to keep that dream alive, man. But, Preston, anything else before we wrap it up on this episode?
No, nothing else.
All right, Preston. Well, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here on this week's episode of In the Marbles Weekly Racing Podcast Throwback Weekend episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to us, whether you're on your regular podcast platform or on YouTube. Really do appreciate you taking the time to stop by and hang out with us for the last hour and 15 minutes or so. I'd like to thank our partners for the show, Standard to Cancer, Devos Outdoor Lighting, Fanatics, and Extreme Sim Racing for all they do for the show here, for us here at the show, and for what they do for Belly Up Sports as well. Make sure to head over to ramblinaboutracin.com to links to all of our social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, for the latest and greatest of what's going on in the world of auto racing and for what's going on in our lives here as well. And links for the partners can be found there as well. For Preston Lood, P_Lood, I'm Matt Beamer, MBeamer22. Stay safe, and we'll see you after Darlington, folks.